This is the Unit 4 Iran and Theocracy Review Guide. First off, understanding that Iran runs their government through religion, and that's the idea of a theocracy. Government ruled strictly by that idea, and they use their Islamic faith. The two constitutions that were created, so if you go to the 1906, they modeled it after the Western constitutions of the United States and other countries. They had separation of powers, Bill of Rights were there, idea of voting. They had three branches. However, in that constitution, the Shah was the leader and didn't give many personal liberties as expected. Then, when the revolution occurs, 1979, they create a new constitution, and it doesn't serve the individual at all. It guides people towards Allah. So what makes Iran's government different, again, is based off of religion. A lot of their laws are based off religion. They are Shiite Muslims, which is the minority of Muslims in the world, but it's the majority in Iran. They were influenced, again, by the West, but now they are influenced by their religious background, and they're very anti-West, anti-United States, and that's because of the relationship they had with the Shah and his monarchy. So how are the revolutions that occurred similar between Iran and China? We had Mao Zedong, and then you had the Ayatollah Khomeini, and they're both very charismatic leaders. They wanted to change society, so they started at that civil society aspect and changing the culture there. Your jurist guardianship. Valeh Faji is the clergy have full authority over the entire Shia community, the Shiite community, or the Muslims there. The clergy, mostly the Ayatollah, make the decisions for the community. That is the aspect behind this, that they are making these decisions. They have the power to do so and the responsibility to do so. The goal of those cultural revolutions, as we talked about earlier, was to get rid of all secular beliefs and especially Western beliefs. Some of the checks on the supreme leader, some of the religious experts can actually dismiss the supreme leader. Most likely won't happen, but they can. The powers of the supreme leader, so the idea of Faji, leading jurist, to make the decisions based off of Sharia law. Can eliminate presidential candidates, so vet, can dismiss the president, in charge of the armed forces or commander-in-chief, can declare war, and gets to nominate 6 members to the Guardian Council. If you're looking at head of state, head of government, you're looking at the Queen of England versus the Supreme Leader. Queen of England doesn't really have any powers, where the Supreme Leader does have powers, not just a figurehead. The couple policy-making bodies in Iran would be the Modulus and the Guardian Council. Your president is elected in Iran, does not have to be a cleric, usually is not a cleric, is the head of government, makes all those decisions, signs treaties, works with other countries, develops the budget, and then gets to select the individuals serving in the cabinet and the vice president. The Modulus is kind of your parliament. It's unicameral, 290 members. They run on single-member districts. They make and create laws. They also get to approve some members of the Guardian Council and can remove cabinet members. So there's a check there on the cabinet. In which governing bodies must a person be a cleric? So the people that you have to be a cleric in order to represent in this body of government, Supreme Court, Guardian Council, and the Supreme Leader. Those that are elected by the voters in Iran are the Modulus, Assembly of Religious Experts, and the President. Again, the Assembly of Religious Experts, you do not have to have a background in religion. An authoritarian regime, again, you have one small leader, a group of small people, limiting your liberties. There's lack of transparency, probably unfair elections, and those are the people that hold power. When you look at corporatism, it's the idea of state corporatism. They limit civil participation, so it's the state running and making decisions for the people. In China and Russia's government structure, there's similarities because both legislative bodies are weak. The executive branch, presidents, supreme leader. They are making decisions, and legislative branches are somewhat weak. Women in Iran, they do have access to education. They can vote, but there's little participation within the government. Your Expediency Council. You have 32 members. They are appointed by the Supreme Leader, so they're important people from different government bodies. They look at disputes sometimes when the Modulus and Guardian Council are going over legislation, making laws. They look at the disputes. A lot of times they do favor with the Guardian Council. The idea of a rentier state, states which derive a lot or most of their revenue for their country, their nation, from the rent of resources. So renting out land for companies to come in and to cultivate, use those resources, and make a profit off of them. Cunin law, not sacred-based. Those are your normal statutes or laws created by the Modulus, but they cannot violate Sharia law, which is the religious law. Again, should reign supreme. A lot of these civil, penal, financial, economic matters, administrative matters should be based off of this Islamic criteria.